Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Natsu had dual elements. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Reborn as Gohan in future timeline will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? What if Ichigo awoke his powers to save his mother? What if Transmigrated into a nightmare mode Dragon Ball world? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that as the series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 25, Urza's Past. Several hours earlier, Magical Council Meeting Hall. What do you mean a fragment of the R system still remains? Org shouted, slamming his fists down onto the table. His one open eye wide with anger and worry. That's not possible. 8 years ago a dark cult invested a large sum of money to start construction of the R system. Leiji explained, as he rubbed his chin. But those 7 towers? The council put a halt to their construction. There shouldn't be anything left of them. But there was an 8th. Belno said in a frustrated tone, clasping her hands on top of the table. It's currently off the coast of Kalem. Don't tell me it's been completed. Org said, starting to break out into a cold sweat. Our scouts would not lie about something so serious. Belno said in a grave tone, as she softly shook her head. So it has been completed. Altair mused, gazing intently at Seagrain. Why in blazes would the R system pop back up now of all times? Michello questioned with a hint of annoyance, as he crossed his arms over his chest. The Tower of Heaven. Seagrain replied cryptically, getting all of his fellow council members' attention. It's not called the R system, it's called the Tower of Heaven. Yes, I believe that was its other name. Michello said, as he quirked an eyebrow in confusion. What's your point? Enough, Seagrain. Org roared, glaring at Seagrain from across the table. It doesn't matter what the hell we call it. The R system is a dark and taboo magic. It inflicts incredible harm on anyone subjected to it. It creates untold havoc and chaos. Org slammed his hands onto the table once again and rose from his seat. We have to mobilize the army this instant. We need to stop this before it gets out of hand. But Org, we know nothing of our opponents. Perhaps we should do some more recon. Belno tried to calm her colleagues, but she was put off by Hog. No, nothing. But Leiji just said dash. Actually, it appears as though the forces currently occupying the R system have no connection to the dark cult I mentioned earlier. Leiji interrupted Hog, before he could go any further. What? Org yelled, as he turned his attention to Leiji. Then who are these mysterious new forces? We don't know all of their current members. Yajima said, picking up where Leiji left off. The elderly council member cast a suspicious look at Seagrain. But they're under the supervision of a man named Jalal, a man shrouded in mystery. Jalal? I've never heard of anyone by that name. Belno said, as she turned to look at Yajima. Do we have any possible records on him? Other than his name, we know nothing of his background. Yajima replied, releasing a light sigh. As the council members continued to argue and bicker, no one but Yajima noticed Seagrain and Altair exchange uneasy looks. Several hours later, back with Natsu's group. Where the hell did you lead us, Flamebrain? Gray exclaimed in annoyance, as he continued to row the small boat they had commandeered. Because it sure as shit looks like we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. It does appear as though we've been drifting aimlessly for quite some time. Juvia said, glancing at the pink-haired dragon slayer, whose head was currently resting in Lucy's lap. The water mage didn't know why, But she was overcome with jealousy as she watched Lucy gently comb her fingers through Natsu's hair. But Juvia doesn't think that Natsu would mislead us. Why is Juvia becoming so upset? Juvia thought, as she slightly glared at Lucy. Lucy-san is no longer Juvia's love rival, and will no longer get between Gray-sama and Juvia, but when Juvia sees her so close to Natsu, Juvia's heart seems to ache. Juvia sighed heavily and gazed longingly at Natsu. Juvia wishes she could do that with Natsu. Juvia's face suddenly burned bright red when she pictured herself being so intimate with Natsu. But the water mage quickly shook her head to get those thoughts out of her mind. No, Juvia mustn't think like that. Juvia would be betraying Gray-sama if she thought like that. Juvia glanced at Gray and remembered how he had treated her earlier. But Juvia doesn't think it will hurt to imagine. Hey Natsu, Lucy whispered, smiling softly down at her mate. You're absolutely sure it's around here? Why yeah, Luce. Natsu replied in a somewhat groggy tone. The dual dragon slayer did look quite queasy, but thanks to Lucy he was able to keep his composure. I'm positive it's somewhere around here. Thank you, Natsu. Lucy said softly, as she placed a kiss on Natsu's cheek. Now just relax and focus on sniffing out where Urza is. Yeah, we're relying on that nose of yours, Gray said in an irritated tone, stopping for a moment to rest his arms. So try to get a grip, will ya? Gray-sama, Natsu was trying his best to guide us despite being sick. Juvia said barely above a whisper, as she avoided Gray's gaze. He's not trying to upset you. So please try to go easy on him. Whatever, Gray said, crossing his arms over his chest. As long as we find Urza before something happens to her. Thanks, Juvia, Natsu said weakly, forcing a toothy grin. I knew you'd have my back. And no problem, Natsu, Juvia said, as a fierce blush spread across her face. Juvia quickly turned her head so Natsu wouldn't see the large smile spreading across her face. That's what friends are for. Lucy thought with a small smile, continuing to stroke Natsu's head. Looks like you're already winning her over, Natsu. It's only a matter of time now. Damn it, Gray exclaimed, as he grit his teeth in anger. I can't believe took Urza and Happy while I was unconscious. How pathetic is that? That's true, Juvia muttered, looking down at her lap. To think a mage as strong as Urza would be defeated. There isn't any way she was defeated, Gray said in a dark tone, as he glared fiercely at Juvia. You don't know a thing about Urza, so you'd best keep your mouth shut about her. /N again, I'm not bashing Gray right here. If you go back to this part in chapter 78 of the manga, he says this almost word for word to Juvia. I only added the part at the end. Like I said, he was an ass to her at first. I am sorry, Gray-sama, Juvia said in frightened tone, slightly cowering away from Gray. Please forgive Juvia. Oi! Natsu exclaimed in anger, as he surprised everyone by standing up. It looked as if the Dragon Slayer's motion sickness had completely vanished as he stared Gray down. Then to Gray's surprise, Natsu tightly grabbed his shoulder and roughly shoved him down into his seat, rocking the small boat. The Ice Mage was surprised to see the pure anger in Natsu's eyes. You don't talk to her like that, Natsu audibly growled and got right in Gray's face. Now apologize before I throw your sorry ass overboard. Gray knew that the dual Dragon Slayer was dead serious, and his tone showed that there was no room for argument. So Gray hung his head and released an annoyed huff. Sorry, Juvia. The Ice Mage had turned his head away so everyone wouldn't see his face flushed red in embarrassment. It's fine, Juvia shouldn't have said something like that, Juvia said, as she fidgeted with her jacket. Good, Natsu said, just as his motion sickness suddenly returned. Almost immediately the Dragon Slayer was once again in Lucy's lap, a groaning mess. Damn it, I was being so cool too. Natsu is always looking out for me, Juvia thought, smiling softly at the dual Dragon Slayer. Urza did mention those guys were her former nakama, Lucy mused, as she rubbed her chin. I guess when it comes to Urza, Natsu is the only one who knows a lot about her.
So flame brain. Gray said, nudging Natsu with his foot. You know anything about Urza's former nakama? First, I'm hearing of M. Natsu replied, as he suppressed another urge to gag.
Whoever these guys are, and wherever they took her, Urza never mentioned them. That's odd for Urza not to tell even Natsu something.
Lucy muttered, scanning at the horizon ahead of them.
The blonde celestial spirit mage's eyes widened when she spotted a looming object in the distance.
Look! There's a tower ahead. Lucy gulped when she got a better look at the menacing tower ahead of them. That must be the Tower of Heaven.
Same time, Tower of Heaven.
So?
Urza said, as she gazed up at the tower before her.
It's true. It really was completed. Well, it has been 8 years, Nasan.
Sho said, shrugging his shoulders.
We were actually the ones to put the finishing touches on this place. Enough talking.
Simon said, as he shoved Urza forward.
Get moving. Fine, I'm going. Urza said quietly, hanging her head.
8 years, you've all changed so much.
Sho and Simon escorted Urza through the large and imposing tower.
After ascending a long winding staircase, Urza was tossed into a small cell, with her hands bound above her head. The cell itself was very small, only sporting a single barred window that barely illuminated the room with pale moonlight.
The ceremony will be tomorrow at midday,
Sho said, as he finished tying Urza's restraints. I know it's not very appealing, but this will be your quarters until then.
Ceremony.
Urza thought, her eyes slowly widening. Does that mean they're trying to activate the R system?
There's no hard feeling, right?
Sho asked, as he placed his hands in his pockets. You're a traitor, so you dug your own grave, Nasan.
Now it's time to lie in it. Jalal is actually pretty pissed at you. He even decided to make you the sacrifice for the ceremony. Urza seemed unfazed by the news and simply glared at Sho. We won't ever be able to see you again, Nasan. But it's all for the sake of heaven. Urza flinched away when Sho leaned closer. Are you trembling, Nasan? Does being our sacrificial lamb frighten you? Or is this place bringing back some nostalgic memories? Nostalgic isn't the word I'd use, Urza said, continuing to glare at Sho.
The scarlet-haired knight was doing her best to suppress the memories of this awful place. Something that Natsu helped her do. But her mind still wandered to one of their failed escape attempts from the tower. How they had been caught and Jalal had pretended to be the mastermind behind the escape so that the rest of them wouldn't be hurt. But their captors didn't believe Jalal and thought it was actually Urza. Jalal had tried to stop them, but it was in vain. Urza had put on a brave face back then as she was led into the disciplinary chamber. All the while Sho, the real leader of the escape plan, had remained silent and was too afraid to speak up. I'm sorry for putting you through all that back when we were kids, Nasan. Sho apologized, as he gazed down at the floor. Even though I was the one who planned that escape attempt. Sho released a heavy sigh and his eyes filled with regret. But I was such a coward back then, the only thing I could think about was saving myself. I don't care about that anymore. I put all of that behind me a long time ago when I joined Fairy Tail. Urza said, her eyes hardening. But more importantly, do any of you truly know the risk of using the R system to resurrect people? Wow, impressed Nasan. Sho said with a small smirk. You actually know what the R system is used for. Revive system. Urza said, as she continued to glare at Sho. In exchange for one living sacrifice, one person can be brought back to life. It's a disgusting and forbidden magic that's completely devoid of any humanity. From the moment of its creation, magic had nothing to do with humanity. Sho said, wagging his finger. All magic slowly wears away at humanism. TCH, you sound just like those black cult members. Urza said, as she grit her teeth in irritation. You're all just like them now. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, Nasan. Sho said with a twisted smile, once again leaning extremely close to Urza. Those foolish cult members could only recognize the R system as a basic anti-soul restoration magic device. They all lacked Jalal's foresight. Urza flinched away when an insane look spread through Sho's eyes. He's going to guide us to the heaven that awaits us ahead. Heaven? Urza repeated in a low tone. Yes, when Jalal revives that person, the world will be reborn again. Sho said cryptically, as he began to laugh hysterically. And then we shall become that new world's rulers. Urza watched on as Sho fell further and further into madness. The remnants of those who stole our freedom, the friends of Nasen who betrayed us, all those ignorant fools living without a care in the world, the idiots on the council, will inflict fear and sorrow upon all of them. And then we'll rob everyone of their freedom. We'll be the true rulers of this world. I won't let you lay a hand on my Nakama. Urza thought, releasing an audible growl. Sorry Sho, but I have to stop you all. Before Sho could finish his rant, Urza swiftly smashed her knee into Sho's chin. A sickening crunch was heard as Sho's head snapped back and fell to the ground. Then, showing her impressive strength, Urza lifted herself off the ground and quickly gnawed through the ropes around her wrists. A sudden white-hot rage filled Urza as her body was engulfed in bright white light. What have you done to make my friends change so much? Urza's face was twisted in anger just as she finished re-equipping into her armor. I will never forgive you for this, Jalal. I'll definitely put an end to this. Same time, Miliana's room. Ugh, where am I? Happy muttered, as he rubbed his throbbing head. The blue cat slowly opened his eyes and was shocked to see that he was in a room filled cat paraphernalia. Cats! Cats are everywhere. Happy immediately began to panic and quickly started scanning around the room. Where the heck am I? Natsu! Where are you? Meow? Happy nearly jumped off the couch he was standing on when the cat girl from earlier suddenly appeared in front of him. How's it going? How's it going? Happy repeated in a confused tone. Meow. It's a talking cat. Miliana cheered, as her eyes lit up in excitement. Miliana! Wally said, leaning against a nearby wall. Make it dandier. You! Happy yelled, as he pointed at Wally. You're that weird square guy from the casino. It's not a talking cat. Wally said, giving Happy a thumbs up. It's talking, so that makes it a cat. Oh! Now I totally get it. Miliana exclaimed, as she clapped her hands. That makes no sense at all. Happy said with a sweat drop, hanging his head in defeat. Anyway. Where is this place? Where's Natsu? Hey cat. Wally said, as he lit a cigar and took a quick puff. That little punk should be meeting his maker right now. No. Happy said in a deadpan voice. Natsu melted your gun and burned your hand. Then before he could fight you, you teleported away. TCH, shut up you stupid dash. Wally! Miliana! Simon exclaimed, as he burst into the room. Urza has escaped. Urza's here. Happy said, feeling a large burst of hope. If Urza is here, then Natsu will definitely be coming to rescue her and I. Escape, that sure brings back memories. Miliana said with a smile. Come on Simon, you have to be dandier than that. Wally said, as he took another puff of his cigar. There's no way she could escape this tower. That's the thing, it doesn't look like she's trying to escape. Simon said, causing Wally to quirk an eyebrow. It appears as if she's heading straight for Jalal. Now come on. We have to stop her. Meow. Wait for me. Miliana yelled, as she ran after Simon. TCH, women are a pain in the ass no matter what time they're from. Wally said, running his hand down his face. What the hell is going here? Happy muttered to himself. Same time, Jalal's throne room. Ha 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 ha. Jalal began to laugh hysterically after he received the word that Urza had escaped. Thanks for the update Vidaldus. Jalal Sama. Vidaldus said in a confused tone. Haha, Urza's an excellent woman just as I suspected, she truly is fascinating. Jalal said, resting his head on his fist. Will I be victorious? Or will it be Urza? I say we enjoy it, dancing together between life and death, past and future. The game of heaven. But what of the council? Vidalvis asked, as he crossed his arms over his chest. Their moves are quite concerning. Oh. Jalal said, a large smirk spreading across his face. I wouldn't about the council too much. 10 minutes later, Magical Council Meeting Hall. The R system ignores the law of human life and death. It's an extremely dangerous magic that can give rise to chaotic ideas. Org said, as he gazed at his fellow council members. Whoever's occupying that tower now, we must consider them our enemy. We have to dispatch the army immediately. You're all weaklings. Seagrain muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear him. How dare you, Seagrain? Belno exclaimed in an offended tone. You all don't seem to get it. Seagrain said, slamming his hands onto the table. I'm telling you all now that as far as I'm concerned, simply dispatching the army is weak-willed. It's dangerous, far too dangerous. Then what do you suggest we do? Belno asked, as she crossed her arms over her chest. Since we're all so weak-willed and you apparently seem to have all the answers. You people don't understand anything. Seagrain exclaimed, surprising all of his fellow council members. Right now there's only one way to destroy the Tower of Heaven. Satellite Square, Aetherion. Are you insane? Belno shouted, as she sharply rose from her seat. That's magic so destructive that it transcends space and time. Do you have any idea how much damage that weapon could cause? It has the power to single-handedly wipe out an entire country. Yes. Aetherion is our ultimate weapon. Org yelled, quickly backing Belno. It's far more dangerous than the R system. But Satellite Square can target anything on the planet's surface. Seagrain reasoned, balling his fists on the table. And if we want to destroy that huge tower, Aetherion is the only option. I must agree with him. Altair said, as she raised her hand. I truly see no other reasonable options. There are 9 of us. Yajima said, crossing his arms over his chest. If 3 more members agree with this, we'll use Aetherion. We don't have time for this. Seagrain yelled, as he glared at Yajima. The R system must not be used. TCH, I don't like this but we must stop the R system. Leiji said, raising his hand. I also vote to use Aetherion. We still need 2 more votes. Seagrain pleaded, frantically looking at his fellow council members. There's no time left. Back in the Tower of Heaven. Out of my way. Urza roared, slashing her way through a wave of guards. The scarlet-haired knight was storming through the tower at a breakneck pace, taking out anything in her path as she searched for Jalal. After dispatching the latest group of guards, Urza grabbed one of the ones still conscious by his throat and slammed him against the wall. The guard's eyes shot open when Urza pressed her blade against her cheek. When Urza next spoke, her voice was calm and menacing. Where is Jalal? I won't ask twice. As Urza grilled the guard for information, Natsu and his group had just arrived at the base of the tower. But the group was immediately halted when they saw the sheer number of guards protecting the tower's entrance. The group quickly took cover near the water so that they wouldn't be seen while they formulated a plan. Juvia had quickly volunteered to search for a possible entrance under the and disappeared underneath the waves. That's a whole lot of guards. Gray said, as he peeked over the pile of rocks they were hiding behind. Who cares? Natsu asked, tapping his foot impatiently. The dual dragon slayer could feel his irritation growing by the second. His mate was in that tower, possibly in danger, and here he was sitting outside doing nothing. Natsu needed to hit something, and he needed to hit it soon. Please just let me plow right through them. It would only take a second. Please calm down, Natsu. Lucy said, as she rested a hand on Natsu's shoulder. This seemed to have the desired effect, as Natsu stopped impatiently tapping his foot.
They have Urza and Happy in there. One wrong move and we'll be putting them in danger.
Lucy suddenly released a light sigh and glanced at the tower ahead of them.
Still, that tower is right ahead of us.
If we're discovered, we won't stand a chance out here.
Hopefully Juvia finds a way for us,
Natsu said, gazing at the water behind them.
Almost as if on cue, Juvia rematerialized out of the water. Well, would you look at that, so did you find anything, Juvia?
Yes,
Juvia has found a way into the tower's basement through the water,
Juvia said, as she pulled herself back onto the land.
Nice job, Juvia,
Gray said, giving Juvia's a thumbs up. The water mage blushed brightly, because of Gray's compliment.
It will take about 10 minutes underwater,
Juvia explained, as she fought back her raging blush. Regaining her composure, Juvia formed a sphere of water in her hand.
Please wear this.
This will use water to enclose your head, allowing you to breathe underwater.
Awesome work, Juvia, Natsu cheered, placing the ball of water on his head. Alright guys, let's get in there. 10 minutes later, Tower of Heaven's basement. So this is the tower's basement?
Gray asked no one in particular, as he scanned around the empty room.
Urza and Happy are in here somewhere, so we better hurry, Lucy said, wringing the water out of her clothes.
Oi! A sudden yell caused everyone's heads to snap up. Natsu's group was surprised to see that they had already been spotted by a passing group of guards. The guards has been walking past on a walkway above them and had happened to spot them.
Who the hell are you guys?
Oh shit! Lucy exclaimed, as she reached for her celestial spirit keys.
We've already come this far,
Gray said, gathering ice magic in his palm.
Looks like we'll just have to fight them. Juvia agrees,
Juvia said, as his body became surrounded by a flurry of water.
You want to know who we are? Natsu roared, slamming a flaming fist into one of the walkway's support pillars.
The pillar exploded and rest of the walkway burst into flames.
We're from Fairy Tail and we're here to get my knight back.
Immediately the basement turned into a raging battleground. But since none of the guards knew how to use magic, they were all at a severe disadvantage.
I got you,
a guard yelled, as he swung his sword at Lucy.
But the guard was surprised to see Lucy easily backflip and dodge his attack. Open gate of the giant crab. Cancer.
The celestial spirit emerged in a bright flash of gold light and attacked the guard, knocking him out.
Great job, Cancer.
It's always a pleasure, Cancer said with a grin.
It's 2-on-1, we got her,
a guard yelled, as he charged towards Juvia with his friend. However, the guards were shocked when their blades simply passed through Juvia's body, leaving the water mage completely unharmed.
What the hell is she?
Water slicer. With a flick of her wrist, a blade of water cut both guards down.
Do not underestimate Juvia and her water. Ice make, hammer.
Gray formed an ice giant hammer and slammed it into a large group of guards.
Heh, you guys weren't so tough. Lightning dragon's roar.
Natsu's cheeks bulged as he unleashed a powerful stream of lightning, taking out almost a dozen guards instantly.
Stay the hell out of our way.
After a few more minutes the fighting had died down, with Natsu's group coming out completely unscathed. Natsu was just about to tell everyone to search for an exit, but a sudden creaking sound caught his attention. Looking upwards, Natsu spotted above them trapdoor had been opened.
Hey guys, some door just opened.
Once everyone had gathered around, Natsu crossed his arms over his chest.
They're definitely calling us out. Natsu's eyes narrowed as he imagined what could possibly lay before them. Jalal, what are you planning? Jalal's throne room. Jalal-sama, how could you simply let the intruders in like that?
The Deldas exclaimed, completely baffled by his master's actions.
What were you possibly thinking? I've told you before, this is all merely a game. Jalal replied, a cocky smirk on his face.
All this means is that those guys passed a level.
Ha ha ha, this has truly gotten intriguing. I wonder what will happen next. But Jalal-sama, if we don't quickly proceed with the ceremony, sooner or later the council will come after us. The Daldus reasoned, which caused Jalal's smirk to widen even further.
Daldus, you're still worried about that?
Jalal asked with a slight chuckle. It can't be stopped anymore. Back with Natsu's group.
Hey, you square-headed fucker! Natsu roared, as he stormed through the Tower of Heaven's halls.
Where the fuck are you? And where did you take Urza and Happy? Natsu, stop! Lucy hissed, slapping a hand over Natsu's mouth. We're in the middle of the enemy's base. We don't need you giving our position away. I get that you're upset, but please don't yell. I agree with Lucy-san.
Juvia chimed in, as she walked up to Natsu.
We don't want to ruin any element of surprise we have left. So please keep your voice down, Natsu.
We'll find Urza and Happy eventually, but there's no need to make our task more difficult.
Fine, I'll try to keep it down. Natsu relented, releasing a heavy sigh.
It would be enough for Lucy to make the request, but since another one of his potential mates backed her up, there was no way Natsu could refuse. His body and mind simply wouldn't let him.
Yeah, we could only go crazy earlier because we were underground,
Gray said, as he shoved his hands into his pockets. So calm down, hothead.
It's quite strange,
Juvia said, crouching next to the trapdoor they had emerged from. This door wasn't opened by someone on the other side.
It's being remotely controlled by magic. So the enemy must be completely aware of our movements. I guess that gets rid of any element of surprise we had. If that's true, then who opened the door?
Lucy asked, as she rubbed her chin.
We're the enemy, so why let us in willingly? It's probably like Flamebrain said.
Gray said, crossing his arms over his chest.
They're trying to provoke us into fighting them.
It was then that Gray took notice of Lucy's appearance.
Without anyone noticing, Lucy had slipped into an entirely new outfit.
The blonde celestial spirit mage was wearing an elaborately designed green dress, with a green bandana on her head.
Actually, when did you change?
These clothes are from the celestial spirit world, Lucy said with a small smirk, as she flaunted slightly for Natsu. I just hate wearing wet clothes, so I asked Cancer to bring me these earlier.
So? Lucy strode over to Natsu and wrapped her arms around his neck. How do I look, Natsu? Why, you look amazing loose. Natsu replied, a blush spreading across his face.
As much as Natsu loved seeing Lucy without her clothes on, he had to admit she looked great in her new outfit. And if we weren't trying to save Urza and Happy now, I'd rip those clothes off you and tear into you for teasing me earlier in the casino.
I'll be looking forward to that once this is all over, Lucy said, as she ran her hand down Natsu's cheek. Now let's find Urza and Happy and get out of here. How can they act like that in public?
Juvia thought, staring at the couple with a faint blush across her face. The water mage sighed and gazed at Gray out of the corner of her eye.
Juvia wishes Gray-sama would look at her like that.
She then turned to look at Natsu once again. Juvia wishes anyone would look at her like that.
There they are.
The sounds of approaching guards immediately put everyone on alert.
We have to stop the intruders. Man, these guys never quit,
Natsu said, sliding into a fighting stance as his entire body became engulfed in flames. But before the guards could attack, a scarlet blur mercilessly cut through their ranks. After a few moments, all of the guards were defeated and Urza Scarlet stood before them.
Urza!
Natsu wasted no time, running up to Urza and wrapping his arms around her.
I'm so glad you're not hurt. And Natsu?
Urza breathed out, as her mind tried to process that the Dragon Slayer was actually there. Once Urza was sure that Natsu was actually hugging her, tears stung her left eye.
Natsu!
Urza immediately returned Natsu's embrace as her tears fell onto his shoulder.
I knew you'd come save me. I knew you'd never abandon me. Of course I'd save you,
Natsu said with a warm smile, locking eyes with the scarlet-haired knight.
A dragon has to protect his knight. Urza chalked back a sob and returned Natsu's smile.
Both mages soon got lost in the other's eyes and they began to lean closer. Natsu's heart thundered in his chest as years of pent-up love and passion bubbled inside him. He would show Urza just how much he loved her and prove to her that he was the man that she deserved. The rest of Natsu's group watched with bated breath as Natsu and Urza drew closer and closer together. Juvia in particular was near fluorescent red, steam practically blowing from her ears. But just as Natsu's lips grazed Urza's, the scarlet-haired knight quickly pulled back. Urza's face was flushed red and she clutched a hand over her rapidly beating heart. "And Natsu, I'm sorry, I can dash." ****, he's here, isn't he?" Natsu asked in a voice full of frustration and pain. The Dragon Slayer crossed his arms over his chest and looked Urza dead in the eyes. "The other man you love, he's in this tower, isn't he? That's why you couldn't kiss me, right?" "No. Natsu dash. Please don't try and argue, Urza," Natsu said, releasing another heavy sigh. "Your face and the way you're acting are a dead giveaway. If that other guy is here, then that's great. I can finally meet him and you can work on getting your feelings together. Once this is all over, you can decide which of us you truly love." Natsu forced a grin and patted Urza on the shoulder. "Now I gotta hurry up and get happy, so we can get the hell out of here. Jalal, if you're really here, we need to talk," Natsu thought, as he stormed out of the room. "I don't see you for 7 years, and when we finally reunite you take my girl and my friend. You've got some serious explaining to do." "Natsu, you can't. You all should leave Dash," but it was too late. The dual Dragon Slayer had already left in search of Happy. That left a bewildered Urza with the rest of the group. "Oi Urza, what the hell is going on?" Gray asked, as he walked up to the scarlet-haired knight. "I'll take care of Natsu and Happy," Urza said, turning her head to look at Gray and the rest of the group. "The rest of you need to get away from here right away." "There's no way we could do that," Lucy exclaimed, as she took a step forward. "We're definitely not leaving without you. Please." Urza pleased, tightly balling her fists and turning away from everyone. "This is my problem and I don't want any of you getting involved. It's already bad enough that you had to come all the way out here to try and save me. It's too late for us to not be involved," Gray reasoned, as he shrugged his shoulders. "You saw Flamebrain run off now, and we've already taken out a bunch of their guards. We're already tangled in this mess, so there's no point backing out now." "Urza, what is this tower?" Lucy asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Who is this Jalal guy? Do you and Natsu know him?" Because Natsu seemed to tense up when I mentioned his name. Lucy suddenly hung her head and avoided looking at Urza. "Though, it's okay if you don't want to tell us. I know you said those guys were your friends before, but we're your nakama now." When Lucy raised her head, she smiled softly at Urza. "We'll always be here for you, Urza, especially Natsu and I, will always be at your side. Gee, go." Urza stuttered out, as she began to slightly shake. "This really isn't like you, Urza," Gray pointed out, placing his hands on his hips. "Why don't you stop saying all this useless stuff and give us some orders to follow you like usual? We'll help you out, even you're allowed to be scared sometimes." When Urza turned to face everyone, Gray was surprised that she had tears in her eye. "Shit, I didn't mean to make you cry, Urza." "Sorry," Urza muttered, as she wiped the tears from her eye. "In this fight, whether we win or lose, I don't think I'll make it back." "What?" Lucy exclaimed, her eyes widening in shock. "We won't let anything like that happen." "What are you talking about, Urza?" Gray asked, as his eyes filled with worry. "What do you mean you won't make it back? It's an almost unavoidable future." "So?" Urza replied, a small smile spreading across her face. "So while I'm still here, I'll tell you everything I know." Urza took a deep breath to calm her nerves before she recited what she knew. "The name of this tower is the Tower of Heaven, otherwise known as the R System. About a decade ago, a cult studying black magic tried to build a tower whose magic could bring the dead back to life." Everyone's eyes widened when Urza said this. The project wasn't sanctioned by the Magical Council or the government, so the cult members forced hundreds of people to work as slaves on the construction. When I was young, I was one of those people forced to build the tower." "Urza," Lucy breathed out, cupping a hand over her mouth. I never knew something like that happened to her. Natsu never mentioned anything like this. Does that mean she hasn't even told Natsu this? That's when I first met Jalal. Urza began to recall her escape from the Tower of Heaven. How Jalal had inspired her to start a revolt after he had taken her place in the rehabilitation chamber. She also mentioned that her stay in the rehabilitation chamber was the reason she now had an artificial right eye. After returning to her cell and hearing the cry and complaints from her friends, Urza had attacked the guards and began rally the rest of the slaves to revolt. For the sake of freedom and rescue Jalal, we revolted against our captors. Back then Jalal was our leader. He had such a strong sense of morality and justice. I admired and looked up to him more than anyone else. However, after his stay in the rehabilitation center, Jalal became a very different person. If you could ever call someone truly evil, that's probably what you'd call whatever Jalal became. After taking another calming breath, Urza began her tale once again. After escaping their cells, Urza and her friends began to fight their way towards Jalal. Urza was dead set on saving him at all costs. There was no way she was going to leave him behind after all he'd done for her. Eventually the cult members had brought in their mages to squash the revolt. One by one the revolters were taken out by the cult's mages, until Urza was the only one who remained on the front line. Urza was so caught up in rallying everyone that she didn't notice that an enemy spell was coming towards her until it was far too late. Clenching her eyes shut, Urza prepared for the spell to hit, but it never did. When Urza reopened her eye, she was shocked to see that one of her fellow slaves, an elderly man named Rob, had jumped in front of her. The elderly man had taken the brunt of the spell and was covered in injuries. As the smoke encasing Rob began to dissipate, the elderly man told Urza that she had unlimited potential and that if she dug deep into her heart she would be able to unlock her magical potential. As Rob breathed his dying breath, Urza had spotted the fairy tale mark emblazoned on his back. Urza released an anguished scream as she cried over Rob's body. All around Urza the ground began to crumble and shake as she unconsciously tapped into her magic. Then everyone watched in awe as all the discarded weapons around Urza began to rise into the air. Giving another anguished cry, the weapons began to attack the enemy mages. Summoning two swords into her hands, Urza once again rallied her fellow slaves and began to fight her way towards Jalal once again. After almost an hour, Urza finally managed to find Jalal. But what Urza found wasn't the Jalal she knew anymore. Urza had cut Jalal free and was helping him towards the boats they had secured. But Jalal broke free from Urza's grasp and began to speak of true freedom in Zeref's world. Jalal then said that he'd be the one to complete the tower. Then to Urza's horror, Jalal began to use magic to repeatedly slam the surviving cult members into the stone walls, their blood pooling on the floor. Urza tried to convince Jalal to leave with them, but he wished for her to stay and complete the R system with him. Seeing that Urza wasn't going to comply, Jalal used his magic to send Urza flying across the room. Jalal said he'd allow Urza to leave by herself, but he was keeping everyone else, because he'd need sufficient manpower to finish the tower. Once again Urza tried desperately to convince Jalal, but he wouldn't listen to her. Jalal had used his magic to form hands that began to choke Urza, effectively silencing her pleading. Then Jalal warned Urza that if she told the government or if she ever returned to the tower, that he'd have to kill everyone to help bury the evidence. Then with tears streaming from her eyes, Urza lost consciousness. When Urza awoke she was on a random beach, far away from the Tower of Heaven. Urza began to roam around aimlessly, until she heard of a mage guild named Fairy Tale. Instantly she recognized the guild's mark as the one that was on Rob's back. Deciding that it was her only option at the moment, Urza started her journey to Fairy Tale. Along the way she met a strange boy named Natsu Dragneel, whom she had quickly befriended. Natsu was a loudmouth and was very energetic, but he somehow managed to put her at ease and bring a smile to her face despite the dark event that had just transpired. After learning that Natsu was also heading to Fairy Tale, Urza decided that she would make the rest of the journey with him. And from there the rest was history. Urza said, finishing her tale. Everyone stood in stunned silence, as they watched Urza begin to shake once again, tears falling from her left eye. No. I have to fight Jalal. Chapter 26, Diving into the Pits of Hell. Same time, Magical Council meeting room. In order to wipe the Tower of Heaven off the face of this world, to prevent Jalal from using the R system. Seagrain exclaimed, as he continued to try and convince his fellow council members. Aside from using Square Satellite, Etherion, we have no other options. The R system has been forbidden ever since ancient times. Altair chimed in, clasping her hands on top of the table. I think we all understand the implications here. As Altair watched the council members yell and bicker, she rested her head on her hand and let her mind wander. She knew that she needed to try and convince these old geezers to use Etherion. But her mind had frequently been drifting elsewhere lately, ever since she returned from Galuna Island to be precise. What was she thinking about so often? Well, Altair had become rather captivated by Natsu Dragneel. She couldn't exactly explain why, but her mind always seemed to wander towards thoughts about him. The dual dragon slayer had sparked immense curiosity and intrigue inside Altair after their brief encounter. Natsu was the first mage in quite a while to actually challenge her, to push her to actually put some effort into fighting. The dual dragon slayer was also the first mage in many years to actually hurt her in combat. The fading bruise on her stomach was a testament to that, and that earned him a great deal of her respect. His determination to protect his friends and complete his mission, no matter the cost to himself, also fascinated Altair to no end. Then there was the raw and immense power he exerted when they fought. Altair still got shivers when she remembered the way he crushed her crystal ball with his bare hands. Just one short meeting and Altair was completely bewitched by Natsu. Altair didn't understand why, but she felt strong urge to learn more about Natsu, and she couldn't wait until she met him once again. I wonder what my little Natsukuin is doing right now. Probably risking life and limb to save Urza and stop Jalal's little plan. I wish I could ditch this meeting and head over there myself. I'm dying to watch him fight again, and I have a feeling that I'm going to miss something truly special from him. But we'll meet again someday, Natsukuin, that I can guarantee. I wonder if he's thought about me at all since we last met? Altair! Org's sudden exclamation snapped Altair out of her thoughts. Are you finished daydreaming? Because we're trying to discuss extremely important matters right now. Sorry, Org-sama. Altair apologized, as she bowed her head. I promise it won't happen again. TCH, that's what you said the first 5 times. Org said, releasing a heavy sigh and stroking his beard. Now where was I? Oh yes, that's right. Seagrain, using Etherion would mean destroying that tower completely. That includes any possible innocent bystanders. Every living thing in that tower will be incinerated. To protect the magical world. Seagrain said, as his eyes hardened. That's a price I'm willing to pay. It's just as Seagrain says. Reiji said, slowly shaking his head. We've all gotten here because of the sacrifices of many others. That's also prevalent in the world of magic we live in today. But Reiji-sensei! Hog exclaimed, as he rose from his seat. If we unilaterally attack Kalim's soil, it will leave a dark stain all throughout history. Then that's a sacrifice we'll have to make. Belno said, shocking most of her fellow council members. One cannot return from the dead. These foolish children must understand and cherish the value of life. I see no other way around it. I approve the use of Etherion. What? Org roared, as he slammed his fists onto the table. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Especially from you, Belno. It's almost as if we're walking into his trap. Yajima thought, releasing a light sigh as he glanced at Seagrain. I have no way to prove it, but something doesn't feel right. We just need one more. Seagrain said, as he locked eyes with the council members that still opposed him. If we want to stop the R system, we must use Etherion. Back at the Tower of Heaven, Jalal's throne room. Just one more, eh? Jalal said of the blue, surprising Vidaldus. It won't be much longer now. What? Vidaldus asked, as he quirked an eyebrow. Did you say something, Jalal-sama? Nothing. Jalal replied with a small smirk. Just talking to myself, just one more person before this little game is all over, huh? With the fairy tale mages.
Hold on SEC Urza.
Gray breathed out, shocked by the story the scarlet-haired knight had just told.
That Zeref guy you just mentioned.
Yes, he's known as the most brutal and cruel dark mage in the history of magic. Urza explained, as she tightly balled her fists.
You know now that you mention it. Lucy muttered, rubbing her chin as she thought.
The monster summoned by Lullaby was a demon created by the Book of Zeref.
Not only that,
Urza said, as she turned to face Gray.
Deliora might have been a demon from the Book of Zeref as well. Gray's eyes shot open when Urza said this.
A mage as powerful as Zeref was rumored to be could create such terrifying demons with minimal effort.
So that's the Zeref Jalal wishes to revive?
Juvia breathed out, beginning to break out into a cold sweat. If a dark mage as powerful as him were to be revived, I'm not entirely sure what his true motive is. Urza said, as glared at the ground. According to my old Nakama, when Zeref is revived they'd become the rulers of heaven. When you explain it that way, I really don't understand your old friends. Lucy said, placing her hands on her hips. They kept calling you a traitor, but from what you've told us Jalal seems to be the real traitor. I have no idea what nonsense Jalal has been filling their heads with ever since I escaped the Tower of Heaven. Urza said, as she released a heavy sigh. But I did abandon them for almost 8 years.
I guess that itself is a type of betrayal. Now if can just take out Jalal, this'll all be over. Is that really so?
Gray thought, giving Urza a suspicious look as her words from earlier ran through his mind. Her words seemed to have a much deeper meaning.
We've wasted enough dash. Nay-san. Everyone whipped around when the newcomer made his presence known.
Urza was shocked to see that Sho was conscious and walking towards them.
What you just said, what did you mean?
Sho. Urza muttered, as she gave her old friend a sympathetic look.
Everything you just said is utter nonsense. You're just trying to earn sympathy from your friends, aren't you? Sho exclaimed, fiercely glaring at Urza.
The truth is absolutely nothing like what you said. 7 years ago, you were the one who bombed our escape ships and ran off by yourself, weren't you? If Jalal hadn't uncovered your betrayal, we all would have been killed.
Jalal told us all. This was the fate of those who cannot control magic. You became drunk with your new power and gave up on us. You dash.
Sho was cut off by a harsh slap to the face. Looking down, Sho was shocked to see that it was Lucy who had slapped him. The blonde celestial spirit mage's jaw was clenched and her fists were tightly balled. Lucy's eyes were filled with anger as she glared at Sho. Tears stung Lucy's eyes as she roughly grabbed Sho's jacket.
How dare you!
Lucy screamed right in Sho's face, which caused the young man to flinch.
You call yourself one of Urza's Nakama. Then how the hell can you possibly believe that Urza would do something like that? Urza is one of the kindest and most loyal people I know.
She would never betray her Nakama like that.
Lucy growled and shoved Sho onto the ground.
I won't have you speak of her as if she's some kind of monster.
Lucy.
Urza thought with a small smile, grateful that the blonde had stuck up for her like that.
You fools don't understand anything. Sho yelled, as he scrambled back to his feet. You don't know a single thing about us. I was saved thanks to Jalal.
Therefore we all built this tower for the last 8 years.
For Jalal. Sho suddenly hung his head and clenched his fists. So, all of this has been a lie? Sho's head snapped up and he glared at everyone. If what Nay-san has said is true, then everything Jalal said has been a lie. That's right. Simon said, surprising everyone as he walked up behind Sho. You bastard!
Gray exclaimed, as he tried to rush forward and attack Simon. But he was stopped when Juvia grabbed his shoulder.
Let go, Juvia. This is the guy dash. Please wait, Gray-sama. Juvia said, turning to lock eyes with Simon.
When this man attacked us at the casino, he definitely knew that was merely an ice clone of Gray-sama, yet he attacked it anyway.
No dark mage wouldn't have detected that.
If he was truly trying to kill us, he would have easily found us.
Juvia wished to confirm this, that is one of the reasons Juvia tagged along. Heh, no wonder you were one of Phantom Lord's elemental four.
Simon said with a hidden smile.
I never planned on killing you back then. In order to trick Sho and the others, I was simply going to knock you unconscious. With that ice clone, I was able to make your death much more believable. You were just messing with us? Sho asked, as he hung his head.
Well, you, Wally, and Miliana, everyone had been fooled by Jalal. Simon explained, patting Sho on the shoulder.
I waited for the right time and pretended to believe Jalal as well.
A slight blush suddenly spread across Simon's face as he scratched his cheek.
I believed Urza from the beginning and I never doubted her. It's been that way for 7 years. Simon slowly walked up to Urza and pulled her in for a tight hug.
The scarlet-haired knight felt tears prick her left eye as she hugged her old friend.
I'm so glad I was able to see you again, Urza. How could you trust her like that? Sho asked in a shaky voice as he tightly clenched his eyes shut. How? Why can't I trust Nasan, trust her like you do?
Letting out pained scream, Sho slammed his fists onto the ground.
Damn it! Ragh. Who the hell is telling the truth? Who am I supposed to trust? Sho. Urza said in a motherly tone, crouching next to the crying young man.
I know it's hard dealing with everything you've just heard, but please just let me say a few words.
During these past 7 years I never forgot about any of you. Urza gently gripped Sho's head and hugged him against her armored chest.
I couldn't do anything because I was too weak, I'm truly sorry for that.
But I can see that you're ready now.
Simon said, as he smiled at Urza.
Isn't that right? I've been waiting quite a while for this moment.
Now that all these powerful mages are gathered in one place.
Powerful mages? Lucy parroted, quirking a blonde eyebrow.
We'll fight Jalal with all of our combined strength. Simon said, as he gazed at all of the mages gathered before him. But first we must stop Salamander and Wally's impending battle. Urza, Lucy, and Juvia's eyes widened when Simon said this.
Salamander's power is absolutely crucial if we wish to take Jalal down. Well, lead the way. Urza exclaimed in a serious tone. We have to protect Natsu. Looks like I was too late. Simon thought with a sad smile. All right, follow me.
Simon took off down one of the nearby corridors, with everyone else following closely behind. As they ran, Simon pressed his middle and index finger to his temple. But he cursed when all he heard was static.
Damn it! My connection with Wally and Miliana is being jammed. Now I have no idea where they are.
So he is using thought transmission magic.
Juvia muttered underneath her breath. Hey!
Gray whispered to Juvia, so that Simon wouldn't hear him.
Are you really sure we should be trusting this guy?
I mean, I understand that he wasn't really trying to kill us, and that's great and all, but in that situation Lucy could have died if Flamebrain hadn't shown up.
I don't plan on making any excuses.
Despite being quiet, Simon had overheard what Gray had said.
If you were the type of mages that would die easily, then you never could have tried to fight Jalal. Gray finished, now understanding what Simon was planning. Besides, I had faith that Natsu and Lucy would survive.
Simon said, as he turned to give Lucy a thumbs up. Lucy merely chuckled and smiled awkwardly. You people have yet to see Natsu's true power. When Natsu hold the true power of a dragon, evil will perish before him.
Natsu has even more power residing within him? Lucy thought, her eyes widening considerably. And what is the true power of a dragon? That power he used against Phantom Lord, that wasn't his true power?
Urza thought, as her heart rapidly beat in her chest.
Just how much power is lying dormant within Natsu? Same time, with Natsu. Happy! Natsu exclaimed, wandering aimlessly through the tower's winding corridors.
The dual dragon slayer could find a hint of Happy scent in the air, but it was very muddled and hard to track.
Where the hell are they keeping Happy?
As Natsu turned down another random hallway, Happy's scent suddenly became much more prevalent.
Happy is definitely somewhere around here.
Opening the first door he saw, Natsu's jaw hung open when he stumbled upon a room filled to the brim with cat memorabilia.
What kind of room is this?
There's cat stuff everywhere. Natsu walked up to a dresser and picked up a large cat mask.
Cat, this thing is pretty cool.
Suddenly Natsu felt an overwhelming urge to put the cat head on. However, Natsu shook his head and put the cat head back onto the dresser.
I don't think it'd be a good idea to put that thing on.
As Natsu continued to search through the room, he didn't notice a newcomer silently teleport in.
This is the end for you, punk.
Wally muttered, as he pulled back the hammer of his new revolver. But before Wally could pull the trigger, someone tried to wrestle the gun away from him.
No! Miliana yelled, trying to grab the revolver out of Wally's hands. Miliana! What the hell are you doing?
Wally exclaimed, as he fought off the wild cat girl.
There you are! Natsu shouted, turning to face Wally, lightning crackling off his fists. I finally found you, you square bastard. Miliana, that was my perfect chance to kill this bastard. Wally yelled, as he glared at Miliana. Why the hell would you interfere like that? The nice flying kitty told me that's his friend. Miliana replied, frantically pointing at Natsu. And I don't want to make the flying kitty sad. So I won't let you hurt him. Don't think I've forgotten what you tried to do back at the casino. Natsu roared, as he charged towards Wally. I'm going to kick your square ass. Out of the way. Wally exclaimed, shoving Miliana out of the way. He's our enemy, Miliana, and I'm going to take him down. Suddenly Wally's body broke apart into several separate pieces. Let's see how you like this. Polygon attack. The floating pieces of Wally's body began to shoot towards Natsu. The dual dragon slayer easily dodged the attacks and began to advance towards Wally. Miliana, he's our enemy, back me up here. No. Miliana replied, as she rapidly shook her head. I won't hurt the flying kitty's friend. Why, you little dash. Lightning dragon's wing attack. Natsu grabbed a hold of Wally's head and hit him with a large amount of powerful electricity. Then Natsu hurled Wally over his shoulder, hitting him with even more lightning as he flew off. Moments later, Wally crashed into the ground, knocked unconscious by Natsu's powerful attack. That's payback for almost shooting me in the mouth. Releasing a light sigh, Natsu turned to Miliana. Thanks for having my back there. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. Oh, I'm Miliana. The cat girl said, as she energetically shook Natsu's hand. Any friend of the flying kitties is my friend too. Flying kitty? Natsu repeated, quirking an eyebrow in confusion. Natsu! Happy cheered, as he flew into the dual dragon slayer's arms. I knew you'd come to save me. It's great to see you, buddy. Natsu exclaimed with a wide grin, hugging Happy tightly. I'm so glad you weren't hurt. Still holding Happy close, Natsu turned his attention back to Miliana. I guess I can thank you for keeping Happy safe? Yeah. She was super nice, Natsu. Miliana and I played a bunch and she gave me some fish. Happy said, as he smiled at Miliana. When the blue cat next spoke, he whispered into Natsu's ear. Although she was a little too affectionate. I felt sort of suffocated. Well, anyways, thanks for keeping my buddy safe. Natsu said, gently patting Miliana on the head. The cat girl blushed brightly at the display of affection. You should stay here and make sure that your square friend is okay. I'm gonna keep pushing on ahead. Alright. Miliana stuttered out, as she tried to fight back her raging blush. I'll keep an eye on Wally. Great, let's get moving, Happy. Natsu cheered, running out of Miliana's room. Aye, sir. Happy exclaimed, as he flew after Natsu. Wait. Miliana called out, stopping Happy and Natsu in their tracks. Will I ever see you again, flying kitty? Sure. Come visit me anytime you want to play again. Happy replied with a big smile, as he waved to Miliana. And the name's Happy. Happy, huh? Miliana muttered, glancing down at Wally. Same time, Jalal's throne room. Looks like things are starting to get interesting.
Jalal mused, as he knocked over a few of the chess pieces on the board next to him.
It seems as if Sho, Simon, and Miliana have betrayed us. The Deldas explained, kneeling in front of Jalal's throne. Wally was also defeated by the salamander. Yes, this is how a game is supposed to be played,
Jalal said with a growing smirk.
There's nothing I hate more than a one-sided game. Jalal-sama, we must quickly capture Urza and perform the ceremony, the Deldas said, rising back onto his feet. There is no more time to be playing around. If that's the case, why don't you head out there, Videldas?
Jalal said, as he placed 3 new chess pieces onto his board.
I can see that you and your friends are itching to fight. Are you sure, Jalal-sama? Well, they've finished their turn, haven't they?
Jalal said, moving a few chess pieces around the board.
I think it's about time I play one of my trump cards.
Videldas merely grinned in response and crossed his arms, forming an X. Suddenly a large amount of dark magic exploded off Videldas as his body began to change. As Videldas began to finish his transformation, 2 new figures walked into the room.
One of the newcomers was a beautiful woman with flowing pink hair. The woman wore a white kimono with red skulls emblazoned on the bottoms, and she gripped a sword in her right hand.
The other newcomer was a massive man with an owl's head, and he also sported a large rocket pack on his back. Once the 2 newcomers had taken their position, Videldas had finished his transformation. The dark-haired man now resembled a heavy metal rocker, with pale white skin and a guitar strapped to his back.
Special Raiding Squadron of Assassins, Trinity Raven. It's your turn to strike now. Go to hell,
Videldas screeched, as a large maniacal smile spread across his face.
Hell! Let me show them all the deepest depths of hell. Hoo, the owlman said, cocking his head. Oh, I wish you were easier to understand, Fukuro,
the pink-haired woman said, as she adjusted the blade in her grasp. But I, Ikaruga, will lead the members of Death's Head Caucus to victory.
A sadistic smile suddenly spread across Ikaruga's face.
Perhaps it is the fate of both love and life to scatter on the wind. Tonight shall be a festival.
Back with Natsu.
Hold it right there,
Wally exclaimed, struggling to stand back onto his feet. This ain't over, salamander.
Before Wally could take a single step, lighting still lingering from Natsu's attack brought him down onto one knee.
Wally, please don't push yourself, Miliana exclaimed in a worried tone, as she rested a hand on Wally's back.
Please just rest.
Well, I've gotten my payback, Natsu said, glancing back at Wally and Miliana.
And Urza and Happy are both safe now, so I see no point in continuing to fight you.
Our goal is heaven,
Wally struggled to say, as he glared at Natsu. The true freedom that Jalal speaks of.
A world where we can rule over the people.
Before Wally could say any more, dozens of strange mouths appeared on the walls and ceiling, all them creepily cackling.
What are those creepy things, Natsu? Happy yelled, tightly clinging to Natsu's arm. They're mouths, and they're everywhere,
Natsu said, as he gazed at the laughing mouths with disgust.
Welcome all of you.
Natsu immediately froze stiff when he heard an eerily familiar voice come out of the numerous mouths. It may have been more mature and menacing, but there was absolutely no mistaking it now.
It was definitely Jalal who was speaking to them.
Even after all these years apart, Natsu could never forget his voice.
To the Tower of Heaven.
I am Jalal, ruler of this tower. All the pieces on both sides are now in place.
I think it's high time we begin, Heaven's game. Jalal. Natsu breathed out, tightly balling his fists and clenching his teeth. What the hell happened to you? What game are you playing?
The rules are quite simple.
Jalal's voice echoed out from the numerous mouths spread throughout the entire tower. My goal is to use Urza as a sacrifice to revive Zeref. Natsu's eyes shot open when Jalal said this.
The dual dragon slayer could feel his anger starting to boil over with each word Jalal spoke. First the bastard kidnapped his mate, now he wants to sacrifice her to some random asshole named Zeref. Natsu didn't know what had gotten into Jalal, but he did know that he would beat his ass until he came back to his senses. That means if I can open the gateway to heaven I win, and if you can somehow stop me from doing that you win. However, that by itself isn't very exciting. So I've arranged for 3 mighty warriors to fight on my behalf. If you cannot get past them, you will never reach me. In other words, this is an all-out battle royal, 3 versus 7. Oh. There's one last tiny rule I should probably tell you all about. There's a possibility that the council could launch an attack on this tower using the satellite square. All of the fairy tale mages' eyes widened when they heard this. The council possessed the ultimate magic of destruction, Aetherion, with enough power to reduce an entire country to rubble. In Jalal's throne room. Yo, you never mentioned anything like that, Jalal. The Daldus exclaimed, as he flicked out his excessively long tongue. If we got hit by that, one of us would be going to hell. Why, Vidaldus, are you afraid? Ikaruga asked with a small smirk. Hell no, Vidaldus replied with a twisted grin. It's the exact opposite, the reverse. That's totally the best news I've ever heard. A life or death job like this is exactly what I've been waiting for. The time is unknown, but it is ticking down, Jalal said, as his smirk widened. But know that the moment Aetherion strikes, everyone in this tower will die. It will be game over and no one will win this fun game we're playing. So everyone, let's have fun, shall we? With Urza's group. This is insane. Lucy stuttered out, feeling her knees go weak from fear. What the hell is Jalal thinking? The blonde celestial spirit mage began to nervously rub the mate mark on her neck. Playing a game when he could die himself at any moment. Aetherion? Urza muttered, as she began to shake slightly. The council? I'm impossible, everyone gasped when Urza was suddenly encompassed in a thick cloud of smoke. When the smoke dissipated, Sho was holding onto a playing card which held Urza inside. Sho! What's going on? What the hell are you doing, Sho? Simon exclaimed, reaching out to Sho. I'm not gonna let anyone lay a finger on my Nasan. Sho replied, as he clutched the card close to his chest. The young man's voice was determined, yet full of fear at the same time. I'll defeat that asshole Jalal all by myself. Stop. You can't possibly do this alone. Simon pleaded, but Sho has already began to run down the hall. Son of a bitch. I'll head after Sho. You 3 have to search for Natsu. Now. Juvia will search with Gray-sama. Juvia said, gesturing down a random hallway. Lucy-san can search down that way. Oi! Hold on a second. Lucy exclaimed, as she placed her hands on her hips. I don't mean to diminish my skills or anything, but I'm not strongest one here. There's no way I can go off on my own. Damn it, why am I stuck with these 2? Gray groaned, running his hand down his face. Alright, I'm pretty worried about Urza, so I'm gonna go after the big guy in Sho. You 2 go find Natsu, okay? Gray-sama, wait. Juvia called out, but Gray had already taken off after Simon and Sho. Once Gray was out of sight, Juvia sighed and hung her head. Well, let's get going, Juvia. Lucy said, as she patted Juvia's back. We have to find Natsu and make sure he's alright. At the mention of Natsu's name, Juvia perked up slightly. Alright, let's go, Lucy-san. Juvia wants to make sure Natsu is okay. With Natsu. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I know I have to stop Jalal and kick his ass until he's back to normal. Natsu growled, as he ignited his hands in bright orange flames. When I get up there, I'm going to make Jalal apologize to Urza and explain just what the hell is going on here. What are you going, Jalal? Wally muttered, catching Natsu's attention. Aetherion, you say, if we take a blast from that thing we'll all die. All we ever wanted was true freedom. I don't know exactly what type of freedom you're after. Natsu said, as he crouched down next to Wally and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. But at Fairy Tail you can have all the freedom you want. Wally's eyes widened when Natsu flashed him a toothy grin. Plus it's a pretty dandy place too. Giving Wally's shoulder quick pat, Natsu stood back up. Happy. I think I've got a way for us to cheat this little game. Aye, sir. I think I know what you mean. Happy cheered, picking Natsu up and flying out the nearby window. Ha ha. Let's skip straight to the final boss. Natsu exclaimed, as Happy soared up the tower. Jalal, I'm coming for your ass. Salamander. Wally said with a small smirk, watching Happy and Natsu sail off. It's all on you now. Please stay safe, you two. Miliana thought, as she clasped her hands over her heart. We're almost there, keep it up, buddy. Natsu yelled, straining his voice over the howling wind. However, as Natsu and Happy flew further up the tower, something caught Natsu's eye. Off in the distance, Natsu spotted a brief flash of light. Happy, what is that? It looks like it's heading towards us. Before Natsu or Happy had a chance to react, they were slammed back into the tower by what appeared to be a man with an owl's head. The dual dragon slayer and Happy tumbled across the tower's floor and crashed into a wall, coincidentally right in front of Simon. Salamander! Simon exclaimed, as he ran up to Natsu and Happy. Are you both all right? Who are you? Natsu asked, rubbing his aching head. The dragon slayer then growled when the owlman landed in front of them. And who the fuck is this dickhead? I will not allow you to break the rules. The owlman said, as he pointed at Natsu. I am the protector of justice, Fukuro. Hoo. First a square dude and now a talking fucking bird. Natsu grunted, slowly getting back onto his feet. How many freaks are in this tower? In no way, is he. Simon stuttered out in fear, as his eye shot open. Without warning, Simon grabbed Natsu's wrist and took off down the hall. This is really fucking bad. We have to get out of here quick. Wait, Natsu! Happy exclaimed, flying after the dual dragon slayer. This guy, he's that square dude's buddy. I'm on your side now, so get your asses moving. Simon yelled, as he quickly formed a hand sign. And you absolutely must not fight this guy. Simon swiped his hand and the entire corridor turned bitch black. Dark moment. Amongst the confusion, Simon grabbed Natsu's wrist again. This is our only chance. But Simon hadn't taken 3 steps before Fukuro was right in front of him. Simon gasped when Fukuro grabbed a hold of his head. The owl of justice strikes even in the blackest of nights. Fukuro exclaimed, cocking his fist back. Simon's eye widened when magical energy gathered on Fukuro's fist. Justice ho ho ho. Fukuro launched a powerful blast of magical energy directly into Simon's chest, sending him flying down the hall. He's so strong. Simon struggled to say, as he coughed up a mouthful of blood. I think that fractured a few ribs. Hoo. Fukuro said, cocking his head. There's no doubt, he's from the Assassin's Guild, Death's Head Caucus. Simon exclaimed, as he struggled to stand back up. They're one of the dark guilds in the surrounding area. But Death's Head Caucus is one of the worst. They ended up specializing in assassination missions, and the most infamous among them all are a group of 3 Nelwas, Trinity Raven. It was said during one of the guild wars they assassinated all of the officers in the entire Western Army. Hoo, you are mistaken. Fukuro said, slowly shaking his head. I merely struck down the forces of evil. Don't listen to him. Simon yelled, as he coughed up another mouthful of blood. Those guys are professional killers. You mustn't try to fight them. So you are the famous Salamander, your infamy has even reached the ears of our guild. Fukuro said, cracking his knuckles. I believe it's time for this warrior justice to strike down evil. A guild is supposed to be a place filled with dreams and aspirations. Natsu said in a dark and menacing tone, as his anger passed the boiling point. The dual dragon slayer disposed regular dark guilds, but one that only took jobs that killed people, that was too much for Natsu to take. These bastards were tarnishing what a guild is supposed to be. They were disrespecting him, Urza, Lucy, Lisanna, and every legitimate guild in Fiore. Just then, like when he heard Lucy being hurt, Natsu felt an invisible barrier inside him break as his anger spiked considerably.
Simon and Happy's eyes widened when dark orange lightning exploded off Natsu and filled the entire hallway with static electricity.
It's not some place for fucked up jobs like you assholes do.
You bastards are a blemish on the magical world and I will take you down. I'm the one that's going to disintegrate evil. I wasn't expecting this, Simon said, watching Natsu stare Fukuro down.
I didn't know Salamander possessed this type of power as well. Just how strong is he?
This guy, he kills people for a living,
Happy muttered, as he tightly clenched his paws. It pisses me off that jobs like that even exist,
Natsu said, the lighting encasing his body becoming more powerful the angrier he got.
But it also pisses me off that assholes request those type of jobs. Not to mention they have the balls to call themselves an actual guild.
Natsu tightly balled his fists and glared at Fukuro.
Everything about this bird freak pisses me off.
So I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
Hoo, little salamander, there are some evils that cannot be allowed to live in this world, Fukuro said, as his rocket roared to life. And you surely are one of those evils. So it's time to die.
What did you just say?
Natsu asked in a dark tone, his brow twitching.
A killer like you has the gall to call me evil, now you've really pissed me off.
Jet ho ho ho!
Fukuro exclaimed, as he rocketed towards Natsu at a blinding speed. I'm sick of your ugly fucking mug.
Natsu roared, bracing himself for Fukuro's impact. Moments later Fukuro reached Natsu, but to Simon's shock the dual Dragon Slayer stopped the rocketing Owlman dead in his tracks.
Fukuro began to howl in pain as Natsu's lightning coursed through his body.
Then Fukuro's rocket pack started to spark, before it exploded in a ball of flames. The Owlman went limp in Natsu's arms, his back scarred and burned.
Time to make sure you're out for the count. Lightning exploded off Natsu's body as he spun Fukuro around and grabbed a hold of his waist. Lightning Dragon's detonating suplex. Natsu fell backwards and slammed Fukuro headfirst into the ground.
As soon as Fukuro's body hit the ground, a massive explosion of lightning engulfed the Owlman and filled the corridor with blinding orange light. When the light died down, Fukuro was in a large crater, charred and twitching.
Natsu stood victorious over Fukuro, glaring down at his defeated enemy.
Justice fucking served.
He beat a member of Trinity Raven in a single attack. Simon breathed out, as his jaw hung open in shock. If he's this strong already, then Jalal doesn't stand a chance. 2 minutes earlier, Jalal's throne room. Jalal chuckled lightly as he used an owl-shaped chess piece to knock down the wall chess piece that represented Simon. How very disappointing, Simon, out of the game already. Jalal then moved the owl chess piece towards a dragon-shaped one.
And up next is Natsu versus Fukuro. I wish I could fight Natsu myself, but he might not dash. Jalal stopped mid-sentence when he felt his connection to Fukuro suddenly cut out.
Hidden eyes narrowing, Jalal knocked over Fukuro's chess piece.
Looks like I might get my wish after all. This Natsu Dragneel sure is an interesting character. A wicked smirk spread across Jalal's face as he turned his attention to 3 different chess pieces on his board.
The Celestial Mage and the Water Woman versus Fidaldus. I wonder who will come out on top. Jalal's evil smirk widened as he knocked over the chess piece representing Lucy. Looks like this might be the end for our Celestial Spirit user. With Lucy and Juvia. Natsu!
Lucy called out, using her enhanced sense of smell to try and find her mate.
The blonde Celestial Spirit Mage frowned when she couldn't find Natsu's scent. Damn it, my nose isn't nearly as strong as Natsu's. Are some type of dragon slayer as well, Lucy-san? Juvia asked shyly, as she walked up next to the blonde. Because Juvia knows from Gajilkuan that dragon slayers have enhanced senses. You call him Kuan. Lucy muttered awkwardly under her breath, avoiding Juvia's gaze.
To answer your question, no, I'm not a dragon slayer, but I do have enhanced senses similar to a dragon slayer.
Why is that? Juvia continued her questioning, as she spotted a strange mark on Lucy's neck. And what is that mark on your neck? Juvia doesn't remember seeing it before. I might as well tell you.
Lucy said, unconsciously rubbing her mate Mark. The blonde celestial spirit mage hid her face so Juvia wouldn't see her sly smile.
Seeing as you'll be joining us eventually. Taking a calming breath, Lucy began her explanation.
I don't know any easier way to say this, so I'll just come right out with it. Natsu and I are mates. This mark on my neck and the pink streaks in my hair mark me as his.
The enhanced sense I have are also because I'm his mate.
So you and Natsu really are together? Juvia muttered in a dejected tone, something that wasn't missed by Lucy.
Well, Juvia is happy for you too.
Thank you, Natsu is really great guy, but there is one little thing that makes our relationship very unique.
Lucy said, smirking when she saw Juvia perk back up.
Because Natsu was raised by two dragon kinds, mating customs are different for him. You see Juvia, dragon mating rituals are passed down to dragon slayers. A normal dragon will have only one mate in their life, and they will only love their mate, and this is passed down to dragon slayers as well.
However, this process is different when it comes to dragon kings.
A dragon king will take on multiple mates, generally around 3 or more, to ensure that their magic will pass on to a new generation. Since Natsu was raised by two dragon kings, that rule applies doubly for him.
So, Natsu can have multiple mates?
Juvia asked, as her eyes slowly widened.
Aren't you upset that you can't be Natsu's only mate?
Maybe a little at first, but I'm fine with it now.
Lucy replied, shocking the blue-haired water mage. Natsu can't help the way he feels.
His magic is driving him to claim multiple mates, it's not something he can really fight against. But I know that Natsu loves me and that I'm very special to him.
Dragon kings instinctually pick their mates at first sight and do everything in their power to make their mates happy. So Natsu is very sweet to me and will risk his life to keep me safe.
Lucy smiled brightly and clasped a hand over her heart. Plus I know who a few of Natsu's other possible mates are, and they're all girls I really like. So I don't see a problem with sharing the guy I love with my friends who love him as well.
It'll be like we're one big family. Like a family,
Juvia said underneath her breath, as she began to process everything Lucy had told her. It all sounded too good to be true. If what Lucy-san had said is really true, then that meant Juvia still had a chance with Natsu. Wait, why is Juvia thinking like this?
Natsu is just Juvia's friend. Juvia doesn't love Natsu, or does she?
Juvia clutched the side of her head as her mind raced.
Juvia is so confused right now.
Juvia is sure that she loves Gray-sama. Juvia's feelings for him are so strong right now, but whenever Juvia thinks of Natsu, Juvia's heart starts to beat faster and she feels so happy, and when Juvia imagines Natsu with other girls, her heart aches because she isn't one of them. Juvia, be in love with Natsu as well as Gray-sama. But that makes sense. Natsu has been Juvia's friend for so long, he was the first one to bring sunlight into Juvia's life, but Juvia's feelings for Gray-sama are so strong, right? Juvia can't explain it.
Juvia. We'll have to figure this all out.
Juvia's thoughts were cut off when a piercing wail filled the air. It sounded as if an electric guitar was being put on blast right next to them. Lucy shrieked in pain and covered her ears.
Her enhanced hearing more easily affected by the extremely loud music. What's that noise?
Lucy screamed, collapsing down onto her knees.
Is that a guitar? Gah! It feels like my ears are gonna start bleeding. Ack! It's so fucking loud. Really? Juvia asked, as she quirked an eyebrow. Juvia actually thinks it's quite nice. How is this not bothering you?
Lucy exclaimed, trying to stop the rapid pounding in her head.
Hey! Yeah! Fucking!
Girls!
A screeching voice alerted Juvia and Lucy to the presence of a newcomer.
The man had pale white skin and extremely long black hair. He was whipping his hair in circles as he played his guitar.
The name's Videldus Taka. Welcome to my hellish concert. Destroy.
You're the bastard who's playing the guitar so damn loud.
Lucy yelled, standing back onto her feet and glaring at Videldus. Cut that shit out. This man must be one of Jalal's 3 warriors.
Juvia said, as she prepared to fight this new enemy.
We must be prepared for anything. Assassin's Guild Death's Head Caucus. The Deldus wailed, sticking out his long tongue. Hey! We're the Skulls. Kick-ass name, ain't it?
The Deldus strummed his electric particularly hard and his hair whipped out towards Lucy and Juvia.
Rock you!
Still covering her ears, Lucy barely dodged the flailing hair. The blonde's eyes shot open as she watched the tendrils of hair crash through walls and the floor. While Lucy was busy dodging the Deldus attacks, Juvia merely stood her ground and allowed his attacks to pass through her water body.
The Deldus looked genuinely impressed when he saw his hair sail harmlessly through Juvia. Wah! That's a rockin' little body you there, girly. Juvia's body is made out of water,
Juvia explained, as she formed a sphere of water in her hand.
No attacks can harm Juvia.
Juvia closed her fist around the ball of water in her hand.
Water lock.
The water formed underneath the Deldus and began to creep up his body, entirely encasing him in water.
Looks like his bark was far worse than his bite. Great job, Juvia.
Lucy cheered, giving Juvia a thumbs up.
That's a member of the Elemental Four for you. However, Lucy and Juvia's eyes widened when the water trapping the Deldus started to disappear.
The Deldus' maniacal laughing was heard as little by little, Juvia's water seemed to be absorbed into his hair. Lucy had to cover her ears once again, as the Deldus began to play his guitar again. A few moments later all of Juvia's water had disappeared.
What?
Juvia stuttered out, as she stared at the Deldus in shock.
Juvia's water lock disappeared? Phew!
The Deldus released a calming breath, before his twisted smile returned. A bit of water is just trick when your hair is messed up. But, you shouldn't use shampoo in the morning, your hair won't like it.
How?
Juvia breathed out, as she tightly balled her fists.
How did you eliminate Juvia's water lock?
My hair can absorb any liquid. The Deldus replied, playing with a few strands of his hair.
Though you won't see me wiping up any oil or alcohol, that's bad for the hair.
Juvia's water won't affect him, Juvia said, as she grit her teeth in frustration.
But we do have a couple sexy babes here, ha.
The Deldus chuckled, leering dangerously at Lucy and Juvia.
What do you mean?
Juvia hesitantly asked, as she tried to cover her body with her hands.
Now the important question. Which one do I choose? The Deldus asked no one in particular, wagging his finger between Lucy and Juvia. An evil smirk spread across the Deldus' face when he spotted Lucy. Looks like the blondie is already taken, so... His finger landed on Juvia. I'll have to take you. Juvia took a fearful step back as the Deldus prepared to play his guitar again. Well, that settles it. You're the lucky girl who's gonna be my succubus today. Succubus.
Juvia repeated in frightened tone.
Rock of succubus. Hell yeah.
Before Juvia or Lucy had a chance to react, the water mage was lifted into the air by purple tendrils of dark magic.
Juvia screamed in pain as the dark magic entered her ears. What is this? This noise.
Juvia yelled, as she attempted to cover her ears, but her hands wouldn't move.
Gah! No! Stop it! Get out of my head! Juvia!
Lucy cried, reaching out to her friend. But Juvia's body was suddenly engulfed by a blinding white light, forcing Lucy to shield her eyes from the intense rays. But the person that Lucy saw when the light died down definitely wasn't the Juvia she knew. Juvia's skin was now pale white like the Deldus and her clothes resembled that of a rocker's. The blue Annette's hair was also down and a purple was emblazoned across Juvia's stomach. Juvia? Looks like I got myself a love slave. The Deldus said with a twisted smile.
Hell.
The transformed Juvia chanted, shocking Lucy so much that she fell over. I'm gonna show you deepest, darkest, most glorious pits of hell, ya bitch.
That's not Juvia anymore.
Lucy breathed out, as her eyes narrowed in determination. I have to save her from this asshole, for my, and Natsu's sake.
With Natsu and Simon. Gah! Natsu yelled, suddenly collapsing to his knees.
The Dragon Slayer clutched a hand over his thundering heart. Just like with Urza when Phantom Lord attacked, Natsu could sense that both Lucy and Juvia were in trouble. Natsu's pulse pounded in his ears as he howled in pain.
Natsu? What's wrong? Simon exclaimed, as he was instantly by the Dragon Slayer's side. Are you hurt? Did something happen when you fought Fukuro? And no.
Natsu struggled to reply, using a wall to steady himself as he got back onto his feet.
Lucy, Juvia, they're both in trouble. Your friends are in trouble, Simon said, as he placed a hand on Natsu's shoulder.
I know you want to help your friends more than anything, Natsu, but we don't have time for any sudden dash.
I know,
Natsu said, shrugging off Simon's hand.
I know we don't have time for detours. I know Lucy and Juvia are in trouble. But I'm not worried.
The dual Dragon Slayer turned to flash Simon a bright grin.
Because I know my girls are strong and that they can overcome anything in her way. I know that they can handle this. Chapter 27, Lucy and Juvia vs. Fidaldus. With Lucy and Juvia. Ha 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 ha. I'm gonna drag your sorry ass down to the darkest pits of hell,
Juvia exclaimed, as she began to laugh maniacally.
You little bitch. Juvia. You need to get a hold of yourself, Lucy cried, tightly balling her fists in anger. Snap out of it. She's my little succubus now, Fidaldus explained with a twisted smile on his face. She'll only take orders from me now. Screw you. Juvia's will is stronger than you think.
I'll free her from your damn spell,
Lucy declared, just as a realization suddenly hit her. Wait, the sound from guitar is what did this to Juvia, then why am I not affected? He, that's an excellent question, little missy, Fidaldus said, chuckling lightly as he flipped his hair. But you see, the answer to your question is actually quite simple.
Fidaldus' twisted smile returned as he burst out laughing.
This would just be no fun at all if both of you were under my spell. I want to see you girls duke it out in an epic catfight. A battle of tears, emotion, and torn clothing. You're disgusting,
Lucy muttered, as she felt a chill run down her spine.
God, you're lucky Natsu isn't here right now.
If he heard you say that, you'd be on your ass right now, begging for mercy.
I'm disgusting, you say,
Fidaldus said, before he began to chuckle darkly.
Why, that's the greatest compliment I've ever received. Ha ha. If you're not ready to rock out,
Juvia said, jabbing her finger towards Lucy.
Then just die already.
Out of nowhere a wall of water materialized in front of Juvia and raced towards Lucy.
Shit!
Lucy exclaimed, as she dove out of the water's path. But Lucy had no time to rest, because Juvia suddenly sprang out of the water that now littered the floor.
Now where should I start my feast? Juvia exclaimed, grabbing a hold of the front of Lucy's dress. I think the answer is pretty obvious. Juvia.
Get a hold of yourself, Lucy shouted, as she struggled against Juvia's surprisingly strong grip.
We gotta start with these huge tits of yours, Juvia yelled with a twisted grin, trying to tear open Lucy's dress. Hands off,
Lucy exclaimed, as she headbutted the possessed Bluanette. The sudden strike had caught Juvia off, so she was unable to turn her body into water to avoid the attack. Clutching her head, Juvia took a few stumbling steps back, water continuing to rage around her.
Only Natsu is allowed to see my girls. They're off limits to anyone else.
At the mention of Natsu's name, Juvia's eyes seemed to soften slightly and the water around her began to calm. However, Lucy was too wrapped up in her current fight to notice these subtle changes.
What are you doing, you stupid bitch? Fidaldus screamed, strumming his guitar to hit Juvia with another burst of his mind control magic. Get in there and kick her ass. I want to see some real fighting. Ha ha. That's right. This little slut needs to be sent to hell, Juvia exclaimed after violently shaking her head.
Then a moment later, Juvia charged towards Lucy, unleashing a flurry of punches and kicks. Lucy had very limited hand-to-hand fighting experience, so she did her best to dodge and block Juvia's strikes, but because of her lack of experience a few hits managed to land.
"Didn't you say you wanted to join Fairy Tail?"
Lucy asked, as she blocked a roundhouse kick that was aimed at her jaw. "If you meant that, then stop attacking your own." Lucy was cut off when she suddenly found herself encased in Juvia's waterlock. Just as Lucy began to run out of air, she felt herself being dragged out of the sphere of water by her hair. Once free of the waterlock, Lucy was roughly slammed to the ground. Lucy strained to look up. She saw Juvia standing over her, locks of blonde and pink hair falling from her fingers.
"Yeah. That's what I wanted to see," the Daldus exclaimed, strumming his guitar once again.
"Keep it up.
Water cane."
Juvia slapped Lucy across the back with a solid stream of water, causing the blonde to hiss in pain. "There's much more where that came from.
Juvia, I know you're in there,"
Lucy yelled, quickly rolling away from another one of Juvia's attacks.
"I know that you can hear my voice."
Springing to her feet, Lucy lunged forward and enveloped Juvia in a tight hug. Lucy knew that she wasn't strong enough to beat Juvia in a straight-up fight, so she had to try and bring the possessed Bluanette back to her senses.
"You little bitch!"
Juvia exclaimed, as she tried to push Lucy off, but the blonde continued to hold on tight.
"Let go of me now." "No way.
I won't let go until you're back to normal," Lucy shouted, tears forming in the corners of her eyes.
"Natsu would never forgive me if I didn't help one of my nakama." Again Juvia reacted to Natsu's name, starting to struggle less against Lucy's embrace.
"Come back to us, Juvia.
Come back to me.
Come back to Gray.
Come back to Natsu.
Come back to Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail," Juvia said barely above a whisper, as she started to go limp in Lucy's arms.
"Gray-sama, Natsu.
That's it, Juvia.
Remember,"
Lucy exclaimed, tightly grabbing a hold of Juvia's shoulders and locking eyes with her.
"Fight it. I know you can do it." "Lucy-san?"
Juvia said in a dazed voice, as she immediately closed her eyes in pain.
"You little bitch.
I'll drag you to hell by your fucking hair." Juvia roughly pushed Lucy away and fell to her knees, clutching her head.
"Gah!"
Juvia screamed out in agony as she rapidly shook her head.
"Get out of Juvia's head. Juvia won't let you control her anymore. Don't fight it, girly,"
the Daldus exclaimed, as he flashed Juvia a twisted smile.
"You'll never break free."
Not knowing what to do, Lucy fell onto her knees and hugged Juvia against her chest. The possessed Bluanette continued to thrash and scream in pain, as tears started to pour from her eyes.
As Lucy held Juvia close, she could almost feel the pain that the Bluanette was experiencing.
Lucy desperately thought of a way to help Juvia and ease her pain. She frantically searched her mind for any possible solution. Then it hit her. Lucy remembered something from a story Natsu had told her a few days earlier. From when he had first met Juvia, it was a long shot, but it just might work. Lucy closed her eyes and leaned closer, so that she could speak directly into Juvia's ear. When the blonde celestial spirit mage next spoke, she had a small smile on her face and her voice was soft and gentle.
"Rain, rain, go away."
Juvia's eyes slowly opened when Lucy's beautiful voice graced her ears. She almost immediately stopped screaming and struggling, as she began to relax in Lucy's arms.
"Come again another day. Little Johnny wants to play. In the meadow by the hay."
As Lucy continued to sing, Juvia pictured that it was Natsu singing to her once again, underneath the bridge on that rainy day.
Slowly, with each word, the dark fog that had been clouding Juvia's mind began to dissipate. "Rain, rain, go away. Never show your face again." Now Juvia was singing as well, easily matching Lucy's pitch and speed. "Rain, rain, pour down. But not a drop on our town."
When Lucy finished her song, she opened her eyes to see that Juvia was looking back at her. The crazed look in Juvia's eyes was now gone, and she appeared to be back to her senses.
Thank you, Lucy-san,"
Juvia said, as she wiped the tears from her eyes.
Thank you for freeing Juvia. It wasn't all me,
Lucy said with a bright smile on her face.
Thank Natsu, he's the reason I knew to sing that song. Natsu saved Juvia again,
Juvia thought, as she clutched a hand over her heart.
He's always saving me somehow, even when he's not here. Impossible.
The Daldus yelled in anger, staring at Juvia in shock.
No one's ever broken free of my control before.
The Daldus' twisted smile returned as he prepared to play his guitar once again.
Fine by me.
Playtime's over, little girls. This time I'll make sure you're both under my spell.
Juvia, we don't have any time to waste, Lucy said, reaching for her celestial spirit keys.
Finding the right key, Lucy raised it above her head.
So I'm sorry about this, Juvia.
What are you talking about? Juvia was cut off when Lucy shoved the key into her water body.
Open. Gate of the water bearer.
Aquarius.
Juvia's eyes widened as Lucy's celestial spirit magic flooded her entire body starting to glow brightly.
Then an explosion of golden light, Aquarius appeared out of Juvia's body.
You used Juvia's body to summon a spirit? Juvia asked, staring at Lucy in shock. Sorry about that, Juvia,
Lucy said, as she rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment.
But your body was the closest source of water. Will you both shut the hell up already?
Aquarius roared, raising her vase and flooding the entire corridor with a massive cyclone of water. Lucy and Juvia quickly became separated in the swirling water vortex.
Not a chance,
the Daldus exclaimed with a maniacal laugh, as his hair began to absorb all of the water.
I already told you, my hair absorbs all water. This won't stop me. Juvia, Lucy shouted over the roaring water, reaching out to the blueonette. Lucy,
Juvia yelled, as she grabbed a hold of Lucy's hand, their fingers interlocking. Instantly their connected hands were bathed in a golden light, and a large surge of magic exploded off them.
Same time, Jalal's throne room. Jalal continued to smirk as he stared down at his chessboard.
Natsu defeating Fukuro so easily was quite the surprise, but Jalal was certain the Daldus would have no trouble defeating those two girls. He was prepared to knock up both girls' chess pieces, but his eyes slowly widened when he saw that the Daldus chess piece had cracked.
What? Jalal muttered, sensing a new, large magical power coming from where Vidaldus was. This power. Jalal quickly realized what was happening. Those little brats are achieving magical fusion? Back with Lucy and Juvia. Oi! Wait a minute.
The Daldus pleaded, as he felt Aquarius water starting to become infused with Juvia's own water, increasing the amount and making it more powerful.
What the hell is happening to this water? There's way too damn much. You ready, Juvia? Lucy asked with a grin, locking eyes with the blueonette. Yes.
Juvia replied in a determined tone, as she flashed Lucy a smile of her own.
Then let's hit him with everything we've got, Lucy exclaimed, both girls unleashing as much of their magical power as they could. Just like with Natsu and Urza, Lucy and Juvia's magics had melded together perfectly.
Their hearts and mind were now in perfect sync, as their magical powers combined.
I'm doing it, Lucy thought as she watched the Daldus be pushed back by their attack. I'm doing a unison raid.
With a pained scream, the Daldus was sent flying back by the incredible vortex of water, becoming pinned to a nearby wall. When the water began to die down, the Daldus fell to the ground unconscious, and now very much bald.
We did it!
Lucy cheered, as she pulled Juvia in for a tight hug.
I'm so glad you're back to normal, Juvia. Juvia is happy to be back as well,
Juvia exclaimed with a large smile, returning Lucy's embrace.
It's all thanks to you, Lucy-san. Oi!
Lucy froze stiff when she heard Aquarius' furious voice. Slowly turning her head, Lucy squeaked in surprise when she saw the fierce glare Aquarius was giving her.
Don't you ever summon me from a place like that again.
Lucy flinched when Aquarius got right in her face.
Where the hell are you gonna summon me from next, huh? A damn toilet? I'll fucking kill you if you do something like that. I am so very sorry.
Lucy muttered in a nervous tone, as she did her best to avoid Aquarius' piercing gaze.
She's very frightening,
Juvia said underneath her breath, but this wasn't missed by Aquarius.
You got something to say to me? Aquarius exclaimed, pushing past Lucy and quickly floating over to Juvia. Because if you do, say it to my face.
It was nothing, Juvia swears. Juvia yelled in a panic, as she frantically waved her arms.
Juvia didn't say anything at all.
That's what I thought, Aquarius said, giving Juvia one last glare before she turned to leave.
Well, I'm out of here. I'm going on a 2-week trip. Aquarius smirked and leaned closer to Lucy.
With my boyfriend.
Aquarius, I already have Dash.
Shit, wait, Aquarius said, as she rubbed her chin.
You're banging that pink-haired guy, right?
Aquarius' crude way of speaking caused Lucy and Juvia's faces to burn near neon red.
I guess I can't tease you about never getting a boyfriend anymore.
Aquarius growled as she was bathed in bright gold light.
I'll think of something later. Just don't bother me for a while.
Then in a brilliant flash of light, Aquarius was gone.
*sigh*, well, that's a relief, Lucy said, falling back into a large puddle of water. We've managed to take out one of the bad guys. Looks like Jalal isn't going to get his way so easily.
No. You were the one who defeated him, Lucy-san, Juvia said with a small smile, as she looked down at Lucy.
Juvia didn't do very much.
You're wrong, Lucy said, getting back onto her feet and placing her hand on Juvia's shoulder.
We did it together.
Lucy suddenly flashed Juvia a bright smile. You called me Lucy when you grabbed my hand, right?
Juvia's face slightly flushed red. It made me so happy, realizing that we were really starting to get along. You don't have to use san with me anymore. We're nakama, aren't we? Nakama.
Juvia breathed out, as tears began to fall from her eyes. Despite her tears, Juvia smiled at Lucy.
Yes, Lucy, we are nakama, thank you.
Juvia chuckled as she wiped away her tears. Rain was falling from Juvia's eyes.
Hey, now that's a cute way of putting it,
Lucy said with a smile, leaning against a nearby wall, slowly sliding to the ground.
But anyways, that whole fight really wore me out. Juvia is quite tired as well,
Juvia said, as she sunk to the ground next to Lucy. Then let's relax for a few minutes, then we can get back to searching for Natsu, Lucy suggested, earning a nod from Juvia.
That sounds good to Juvia,
Juvia said, as she closed her eyes and rested her head against Lucy's shoulder.
Back in Jalal's throne room. Yuna's in raid, eh? Jalal muttered, studying the chessboard played out before him.
I've heard tales of mages wasting their whole lives trying to achieve that, only to never achieve their goal.
A small smirk spread across Jalal's face. That's quite the impressive stunt they've pulled.
They may just be weak, little girls, but they are Urza's nakama after all. Chuckling lightly, Jalal turned to gaze out a window at the setting sun. I guess it's my turn to advance a piece on the board as well.
A half hour earlier, Magical Council meeting room. On the matter of firing upon the Tower of Heaven with ether ion,
Org addressed his fellow council members, as he clasped his hands on top of the table. There are 4 votes to fire, versus 5 against.
Because of these results, ether ion will not be fired.
Wait! Seagrain exclaimed, slapping his hands onto the table and shooting up from his seat.
Do you all really understand the situation that we are in? Just give up, Seagrain.
Org growled, as he slightly glared at Seagrain. This debate has gone on for quite some time.
There are peaceful ways to approach this situation as well. Peace? Seagrain shouted, slamming his fist down.
While we're sitting here wasting time debating petty morale victories, history is about to be altered forever.
Jalal is going to resurrect the dead. Do you not see the horrible repercussions that could have? You keep saying that, but we have no information on whether the R system is even functional yet. Grand Doma said, as he stroked his beard. It is far too early to resort to an all-out attack. Can't any of you feel it? Seagrain asked, his voice lowering as he leaned forward. The dark magic spilling out as we speak, the sheer terror of the man that Jalal is trying to resurrect, the dark mage Zirif.
All of the council members, minus Altair, eyes shot open when Seagrain said this.
Why, what did you just say?
Belno exclaimed, as she stared at Seagrain in shock.
Seagrain! Grand Doma exclaimed, glaring fiercely at Seagrain. How could you possibly know a thing like that?
I didn't want to cast any unnecessary suspicion upon myself, so I didn't say anything. Jalal explained, as he stared down at the table.
I know the man named Jalal. And I know what he means to do.
Seagrain, you've just made us all the more suspicious for withholding such information from us.
Grand Doma growled, tightly clenching his fists. Now you will tell us everything you know. Now.
After Seagrain had explained everything he knew, the votes were quickly recast. In light of this new information, the new voting count is 8 in favor to fire Aetherion and 1 opposed.
That will be all.
The firing upon the Tower of Heaven by Aetherion has been approved. Yajima shook his head disapprovingly, and with a deep sigh turned to leave the council room.
Yajima-san.
Seagrain said, which stopped the elderly man in his tracks.
I understand you may find this difficult to accept, but you can at least see that we must not allow Zirif to be revived, right?
It is no longer my right to resist this decision.
Yajima replied, not turning around to face Seagrain.
But I pray you are ready to take responsibility for your actions, yes?
Of course.
Seagrain said, as he placed hand over his heart.
I will take full responsibility. I am talking about innocent people's lives here, Seagrain. Yajima exclaimed, whipping around to face Seagrain with fury in his eyes.
All the blood that is about to spill is upon your hands, and your hands alone. Seagrain simply remained silent and watched as Yajima stormed out of the room.
Aetherion will be fired in 1 hour. Grand Doma announced to all of the magical council members. So everyone prepare yourselves. A half-hour later, with Gray.
Shit! Where the hell did that bastard go?
Gray yelled, as he sprinted down another winding corridor.
When I find that show asshole, I'm gonna break his fucking nose.
However, when Gray rounded a sharp corner, he stopped in his tracks when he felt the air fill with static electricity. Wait, this sensation, it has to be Natsu.
Running down the corridor, Gray spotted Simon holding Natsu upright and a large unconscious owl-headed man in crater a few feet away.
What the hell happened here? Oh Gray, it's only you.
Simon said, releasing a sigh of relief. I thought it might have been another member of Death's Head Caucus.
Death's Head Caucus?
Gray repeated in a confused tone, as he quirked an eyebrow.
That man over there.
Simon said, gesturing to the still unconscious Fukuro. He's a member of the Assassin Guild Death's Head Caucus, but Natsu managed to beat him on his own.
Flamebrand beat that guy, by himself?
Gray asked, staring at Natsu in shock.
However, Gray was surprised to see that Natsu appeared to be in serious pain, despite his lack of injuries.
Crouching down next to the Dragon Slayer, Gray placed his hand on Natsu's forehead.
Is something wrong with Natsu?
He keeps clutching his heart.
I don't know what's going on with him.
Simon replied, as he gazed at Natsu with a concerned look in his eye.
He didn't actually get hurt in his fight with Fukuro as far as I can tell.
But then suddenly he cried out in pain, and said something about Lucy and Juvia being in trouble.
Lucy and Juvia are in trouble?
Gray muttered, turning his attention back to the Dragon Slayer.
Why Natsu, what did you mean Lucy and Juvia were in trouble? They're in danger.
Natsu said in a pained voice, as sweat formed on his brow.
I can sense it.
They're fighting. Natsu stopped mid-sentence when the pain in his chest began to fade away, and was replaced by an overwhelming feeling of relief.
The aching pain in my chest, it's gone. That's strange. Simon said, rubbing his chin.
Why would it disappear so suddenly?
It's pretty obvious.
Natsu said with a small smile on his face.
Lucy and Juvia beat whoever they were fighting. I don't sense that they're in trouble anymore. So are you alright now, Natsu?
Gray asked, earning a nod from the pink-haired dragon slayer.
Yeah, I think I'm good now. Natsu replied, as he quickly stretched his muscles. With a toothy grin, Natsu punched his flaming fists together. I'm ready to kick some serious ass now. Great, let's get moving so we can find Urza. Gray said, walking ahead of Natsu and Simon. I have a bone to pick with that show bastard. Wait. Natsu said, as he grabbed a hold of Gray's shoulder. I know you're not gonna want to hear this, Gray, but can you try and find Lucy and Juvia, and get them out of this tower? Gray looked like he was about to argue, but Natsu stopped him. Gray, please, I know we don't get along all the time, but just do this one thing for me. I won't be able to relax until I know that both of them are safe. Gray opened his mouth to say something, but he stopped when he saw the look in Natsu's eyes. The Dragon Slayer's eyes were full of determination, however Gray could see hints of worry. Gray fully knew how much Natsu cared about Lucy, and Juvia as well apparently, so he could understand why he was worried about them. They were probably just in a big fight, so they must be exhausted. I don't want an enemy to find them when they can't properly fight back. Alright, I get it. You don't have to say any more. Gray said, rubbing the back of his head. I'll do it. But you owe me one. Sure thing, Gray. Natsu said with a small smile, as he watched Gray walk off in search of Lucy and Juvia. Releasing a light sigh, Natsu turned to the large man behind him. You ready, Simon? Happy? Aye, sir. Happy cheered, flying into the air next to Natsu. I'm ready whenever you are, Natsu. Simon replied, as he offered his hand to Natsu. If you want, I can help you walk for a bit. I'm fine now, Simon, really. Natsu said with a grin. Let's get going. Same time, Magical Council headquarters. Deep below the Magical Council's headquarters, a flurry of mages rushed around to prepare Ether Ion to be fired. Target has been acquired. I'm adjusting spatial coordinates now. The mountains in that region are causing wavelength complications, which is causing calibration issues. Then up the altitude a little more. Magical charge is now at 60%. Ether Ion system integration complete. We've got 27 minutes until Ether Ion is fired. To think we'd be forced to make such a terrible decision at a time like this, with the council president in such bad health. Org muttered, as he watched the mages below working to get Ether Ion ready. We had no choice. Michello said, releasing a light sigh. While the president is away, full responsibility for maintaining order in the magical world falls upon the remaining council members. Michello glanced at Org out of the corner of his eye and saw how worried he looked. You shouldn't worry so much, Org. This may be an unannounced attack on a foreign nation, but situations like this are provided for in Article 27, Clause 4 of the National Security Act. This isn't about simple legal implications. Org said, his whole body shaking slightly. We're talking about deploying Ether Ion here. Well, Zeref is the devil incarnate. Michello reasoned, as he rested against his cane and released another sigh. All we can do is pray that Ether Ion is enough to destroy him. In a different part of the Magical Council's headquarters, Seagrain and Altair were watching Ether Ion being prepared as well. Seagrain had his arms crossed behind his back as he continued to watch the mages below work, while Altair stood a few feet behind him, gazing into her crystal ball. It appears that time is almost upon us. Altair said, gazing up from her crystal ball. Seagrain-sama. The feelings you've hidden for the past 8 years are finally going to be realized. Are you afraid, Altair? Seagrain asked, not turning to face her. Not even a little. Altair said with a small smile on her face. After all, I've always trusted you completely, Seagrain-sama. Yes, I understand. Seagrain said with a light chuckle. But it's not your life that's in danger here. That's true. Altair said, as she suppressed a giggle. Although I do miss the rush of danger. Personally, I find myself trembling. Seagrain said, tightly clenching his fists around the railing he was leaning on. If this plan fails, I die.
As Seagrain continued to stare down below, he and Altair failed to notice that Yajima was close by, listening to their conversation.
The elderly man had used his flattening magic to hide his presence against a nearby wall. If we fail, he dies? Yajima thought, as he quirked an eyebrow. But this is worth putting my life on the line. Seagrain said, an evil look filling his eyes. After all, this is my dream. Quite.
Altair said, as she turned her attention back to her crystal ball.
Something strange is going on here. Yajima thought, rubbing his chin as he snuck away.
I'll have to try and investigate further.
By the way,
Seagrain said, as he glanced at Altair out of the corner of his eye.
You seem to have become quite smitten by Natsu Dragneel. I don't know what you're talking about.
Altair said without missing a beat, turning head indignantly. However, she couldn't hide the slight blush that spread across her face.
I could care less about that man. Whatever you say.
Seagrain said, as he shrugged his shoulders. However, I'd still advise you not to fraternize with our enemies, you'll only end up getting hurt.
I understand.
Altair said, slowly nodding her head.
But you're different, aren't you Natsu Dragneel?
A small smile spread across Altair's face, as she observed the pink-haired dragon slayer through her crystal orb. You wouldn't care if someone was your former enemy, you'd still welcome them with open arms. I saw that firsthand after your fight with that man Gajeel. After you defeated him, despite him harming your guild and loved ones, you offered him the opportunity to join your guild without hesitation. Altair gently caressed the image of Natsu with her thumb.
You're such a fascinating man, Natsu Dragneel. Every time I observe you, I see something new and become more intrigued. And I can only imagine.
Altair briefly glanced up at Seagrain, before returning her attention back to her orb. A sudden smirk spread across Altair's face.
That I'm going to see something truly amazing from you today. So Natsu Dragneel, the question is, can you keep my interest piqued? Same time, with Sho and Urza.
Jalal, that bastard. Sho hissed, as he ran down a long hallway. Shit. How dare he lie to us like that?
Even hurting Nasan. Sho. Listen to me.
Urza screamed, pounding on the card that was keeping her prisoner.
Sho, you have to calm down. Let me out of here. Don't worry, Nasan. Sho said, as he ignored what Urza was saying. I'll protect you no matter what. Damn it. Sho.
Urza exclaimed, just as Sho came to a skidding stop. In front of Sho stood a beautiful woman with light pink hair, which was tied on top of her head in two large buns. She had a curvaceous figure, peach-colored skin, a beauty mark underneath each eye, and sported red lipstick. She wore a long, slightly loose white kimono with a red stripe in between two black stripes around the waist, as well as a red triangle at the bottom of her dress, decorated by flames and skulls motifs, open at the top to reveal her shoulders and a fair amount of her cleavage. It was closed around the waist by a large black belt adorned with a horned skull. Her guild insignia was incorporated into her kimono and seen at the end of both of her sleeves. As the woman walked towards Sho, cherry blossoms seemed to fall around her.
My name is Ikaruga.
The woman introduced herself, as she revealed that she was wielding a large katana.
Greetings. Move out of my way. Sho growled, gritting his teeth in irritation. Who the hell are you supposed to be anyways? Oh my.
Ikaruga said, as she giggled into her hand.
Such a rude young man. I don't have time to waste on annoying hags like you.
Sho exclaimed, hurling several razor-sharp cards at Ikaruga.
A hag, you say?
Ikaruga muttered, as her brow twitched in irritation. In the blink of an eye, Ikaruga unsheathed her blade and sliced all of Sho's cards, straight down their paper-thin middle. Sho's eyes widened in fear as he watched his cards slowly drift to the ground.
And no way.
Sho said, taking a frightened step back. I could barely see her sword moving.
There is nothing in this universe that I cannot slice.
Ikaruga said, as she grabbed one of Sho's sliced cards out of the air and sheathed her katana.
Sho gasped when Ikaruga shot him a fierce glare. And I don't very much like being called a hag. Before Sho could utter a reply, he suddenly felt an excruciating pain coming from his chest. Glancing down, Sho nearly screamed in horror when he saw a large X-shaped cut across his chest. Moments later, blood erupted from the wound, causing Sho to collapse to the ground. Ah! Sho screamed in pain, dropping Urza's card as he fell to the ground. When did you even? Sho! Urza shouted, as she frantically pounded on the card. Oh my, so that's where you were hiding? Ikaruga said with a small smirk, gazing at where Urza's card had fallen. Urza-san. Sho! You have to listen to me now. Get me out of here right away. Urza exclaimed, as she pressed herself up against the card's edge. She is definitely not an opponent you can beat. Don't worry, Nei-san, that card has a protection on it. Sho struggled to say, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Nobody on the outside can possibly hurt you. Oh? Ikaruga said, as she reached for her blade once again. Care to test that theory? Sho! Let me out now, damn it! Urza screamed with a panicked look in her eyes. That woman's sword isn't normal. I told you not to worry, she can't. Sho was cut off when Ikaruga began to slice at the card Urza was in. He was about to reassure Urza, but his eyes widened when he saw that Urza was forced to block Ikaruga's attacks. She cut inside the card. But that means she's cutting into a completely different dimension. Ikaruga only sped up her attacks, forcing Urza to equip another sword to block her rapid attacks. Sho began to panic when the card Urza was in was suddenly cut to pieces. Nei-san! But in a blinding flash of light, Urza landed in front of Sho with a dull thud. The scarlet-haired knight was panting slightly, as she unequipped her second sword. What? Thanks to that woman, there was a distortion in the card's space. Urza explained, as she glared at Ikaruga. I sliced through that and made my escape. That Ikaruga woman has a sword that can surpass dimensional boundaries, which is pretty amazing. Sho thought, staring at both Urza and Ikaruga in awe. But to be able to take advantage of that in an instant, Nei-san truly is incredible. She's so magnificent that I'm at a loss for words. I have no quarrel with you, Urza said, as she pointed her sword at Ikaruga. So I will ask you to kindly step out of my way. Urza's eyes hardened as she tightened her grip on her sword. If you don't, I will force my way through. Ho ho! Ikaruga said with an amused smirk. I rather like that look in your eyes. Maybe you will end up being a worthy opponent after all. What are you? Urza stopped talking when she heard several loud creaks. Looking down, Urza's eyes shot open when she saw that her armor was falling apart. Then with one loud crack, Urza's armor and sword both exploded into pieces. Both Urza and Sho watched in shock as the pieces of metal clattered onto the ground. How? That was my way of greeting you, Ikaruga said with an evil look in her eyes. She couldn't help but chuckle when she saw the disbelief on Urza's face. Oh? Don't tell me, you couldn't see me move either? Maybe you won't be a worthy opponent after all. This woman, Urza thought, as she tightly clenched her fists in fear and anger. She's unlike any opponent I've faced before. Suddenly Urza clutched a hand over her racing heart. Natsu, lend me your strength. Same time, with Natsu and Simon. Are you okay, Natsu? Simon asked, noticing that the pink-haired dragon slayer had suddenly stopped walking. Yeah, I'm fine, Natsu muttered in reply, as he clutched a hand over his suddenly aching heart. He wasn't sure, but Natsu swore he had briefly heard Urza's voice. Urza, she's fighting someone right now, I can feel it. A small smile formed on Natsu's face as he tightened the grip over his heart. I believe in your strength, Urza, you're one of the strongest people I know. You'll win and come back to me and everyone for sure, just like you always do. That wraps up this part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder.
What if Reborn as Gohan in future timeline will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author? So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? What if Ichigo awoke his powers to save his mother? What if Transmigrated into a nightmare mode Dragon Ball world? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that as the series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.